What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving headfirst into the awesome world of 3D modeling. Whether you're a complete newbie or you've dabbled in 3D a bit before, this video is your one-stop shop for all things 3D modeling. We're going to break down all the essential techniques, tools and concepts you need to know to get started. Think of this video as your crash course. We're going to cover everything from the different types of 3D models to texturing, lighting and even rendering. So if you're ready to turn your imagination into stunning 3D creations, buckle up and let's get this 3D modeling party started. Alright, let's kick things off by talking about the different types of 3D models out there. It's kind of like picking the right building blocks for your project. First up, we've got polygonal models. These are the workhorses of the 3D world. Think of them like those 3D shapes you learned about in school. Cubes, spheres, pyramids, you name it. Polygonal models are made up of these little interconnected polygons, like triangles and squares forming a mesh. Now, NURBS models, on the other hand, are all about smooth organic shapes. Imagine trying to model a car with all its curves and flowing lines. That's where NURBS come in. They use mathematical equations to create these super smooth surfaces. Last but not least, we've got subdivision surface models. These guys are like the chameleons of the 3D modeling world. They start off as a simple mesh, but then you can subdivide them to add more detail and smoothness where you need it. So when should you use each type? Well, polygonal models are great for hard surface objects like buildings, furniture and props. NURBS are perfect for those sleek, organic forms like cars, characters and anything that needs to be super smooth. And subdivision surfaces, they're super versatile and can be used for a wide range of models, especially in games and animation. Now that we've got the different types of 3D models down, let's dive into the fun part. Actually creating them. One of the most common techniques is box modeling. It's like building a 3D sculpture from the inside out. You start with a simple shape like a cube and then you extrude, scale and manipulate it until you get the shape you want. It's the digital equivalent of molding clay. Polygon modeling is all about connecting the dots, literally. You create points in 3D space, connect them to form edges and then fill in those edges to create polygons. It's a bit more hands-on than box modeling and gives you a lot of control over the mesh. If you're feeling artsy, sculpting is the way to go. It's like using digital clay to mold and shape your model. You can push, pull, smooth and detail your model with a variety of brushes and tools. And finally, we've got lofting. This technique is perfect for creating complex shapes by connecting different profiles. Imagine you're designing a vase. You could create a series of circles of different sizes and then loft them together to create the smooth, curving shape of the vase. Each technique has its own strengths and weaknesses, so it's all about choosing the right tool for the job. Sometimes you might even use a combination of techniques to get the perfect results. Now, before we move on, we need to talk about the essential tools of the trade. The building blocks of any 3D model. Don't worry, we're not talking about chisels and hammers here. This is way cooler. First up, we've got vertices. These are the points in 3D space that define the corners of your polygons. Think of them like the connecting points on a connect the dots puzzle. Next, we've got edges, which are the lines that connect those vertices. They form the boundaries of your polygons and give your model its structure. And then there are faces, the surfaces enclosed by those edges. These are what give your model its shape and form. Think of them like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that fit together. Now, normals might sound a bit technical, but they're super important. They basically tell the computer which way your faces are pointing. This is crucial for things like lighting and rendering, as it determines how light interacts with your model. And last but not least, we have UVs. These are like flat maps of your 3D model that you use to apply textures. Think of it like wrapping a present. You need to lay out the wrapping paper flat to make sure the pattern lines up correctly. UVs do the same thing for textures on your 3D model. Alright, so you've got your 3D model all built and ready to go, but it's looking a little, well, bland. It's like a blank canvas waiting for an artist's touch. That's where texturing and materials come in. Think of textures like the skin of your 3D model. They add color, detail and realism. You can have everything from wood grain on a table to the scales on a dragon. Materials, on the other hand, define how light interacts with your model surface. Do you want it to be shiny and reflective like metal or dull and matte like clay? Materials give you that control. And then we have shaders, which are like the masterminds behind the scenes. They use algorithms to simulate how light behaves on different surfaces, creating all sorts of cool effects. You can create textures from scratch using image editing software, or you can find tons of pre-made textures online. And most 3D modeling software comes with a library of materials and shaders to get you started. Remember, texturing is like adding the finishing touches to your masterpiece. It's what brings your 3D model to life. Okay, you've got your model textured up and looking amazing, but something's still missing. It's like taking a picture in a dark room. You need light to bring out the details and depth. In the 3D world, we have different types of lights that we can use to illuminate our scenes. First up, we've got ambient light, which is like the overall brightness of your scene. Then there's diffuse light, which is like the light coming from a light bulb. It spreads out in all directions and illuminates surfaces evenly. Specular light is what gives objects that shiny, reflective look. Think of how light bounces off a mirror or a polished car. And then we have volumetric light, which simulates how light rays interact with particles in the air, like smoke or fog. Lighting is all about experimentation and finding the right balance for your scene. Don't be afraid to play around with different light sources, intensities and colors to create the mood and atmosphere you're going for. All right, we've reached the final step in our 3D modeling journey, rendering. This is where all your hard work comes together, and your 3D scene transforms into a beautiful 2D image or animation. Think of rendering like developing a photograph. You've taken the picture, now it's time to see what it looks like. Rendering takes all the information about your 3D scene, the models, textures, lighting, and calculates how light would behave in that environment. There are different rendering techniques out there, each with its own pros and cons. Ray tracing, for example, simulates the way light bounces around in the real world, creating incredibly realistic results. Scanline rendering is a faster method that renders one line of pixels at a time. And then there's global illumination, which takes into account how light bounces between different surfaces in your scene. Most 3D modeling software comes with built-in render engines, but there are also standalone renderers available that offer more advanced features and customization options. And that's it, you've made it to the end of our 3D modeling crash course. Give yourselves a round of applause. We've covered a ton of ground today, from the different types of 3D models to the intricacies of texturing, lighting and rendering. Remember, the key to mastering any new skill is practice, practice, practice. So fire up your favorite 3D modeling software and start creating. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming 3D modeling adventures. We've got some awesome tutorials and challenges lined up that you won't want to miss. Until next time, keep those creative juices flowing, and I'll see you in the next video.